And if that doesn't do it, let me get into Nikki Haley real quick. Presidential candidate for the GOP, came in third to DeSantis, who eclipsed her, bullied his way to 20% of the vote because he was really protesting the fact that she was considered in second place, not him. And obviously, Donald Trump beat them all by at least 30 points in the Iowa caucuses. He's expected to do the same in New Hampshire. And Nikki Haley, the former governor of South Carolina, who was of South Asian descent and the daughter of immigrants from India, by the way. I'll tell you why I'm bringing that up in a second. She is the former governor of South Carolina, who, by the way, is expected to lose there handily as well. Because it's bad enough that Donald Trump has been stomping the whole GOP field. But on top of it all, former Republican presidential candidate who bowed out of the race, Senator Tim Scott, a black man and a senator from South Carolina, is said to be throwing his support behind Donald Trump, which is going to solidify and secure the state of South Carolina. I heard conservative pundits saying earlier today, Nikki Haley is done. They're trying to act like that's the reason. Let me give you another. This lady, intelligent, accomplished, certainly not beyond her prime. This lady, former ambassador to the UN for the United States under the Trump administration, was recently being interviewed, and she claimed that the U.S. has never been a racist country. This is what she said on Fox News. She says, quote, "We are not a racist country, Brian." She was speaking because Brian Kilmeade of Fox News asked her, is the GOP a racist party? And her response was, "We are not a racist country, Brian. We've never been a racist country. Our goal is to make sure that today is better than yesterday. Are we perfect? No. But our goal is to always make sure we try and be more perfect every day than we can." That's what she said. Haley's remarks were in response to MSNBC host Joy Reid's comments on whether Haley could win the GOP nomination as a woman of color. Again, because of South Asian heritage, and she's the daughter of immigrants from India. And Haley suggested Reid, this is what she suggested about Reid. She lives in a different America than I do, pointing to her own rise from the daughter of immigrants to the governor of South Carolina. Haley continues, "I mean, yes, I'm a brown girl that grew up in a small rural town in South Carolina who became the first female minority governor in history, who became a UN ambassador and who is now running for president. If that's not the American dream, I don't know what is. You can sit there and give me all the reasons why you think I can't do this. I will continue to defy everybody on why we can do this, and we will get it done." We know she's lying about that because they ain't going to get it done. But later that day, here's what her campaign affirmed about Haley's previous statements, just to make sure we're fair on this show. Quote, full screen right there. "America has always had racism, but America has never been a racist country," a campaign spokesman said. "The liberal media always fails to get that distinction. It can throw a fit, but that doesn't change Nikki's belief that America is special because its people are always striving to do better and live up to our founding ideals of freedom and equality." Then on Thursday at a CNN town hall moderated by anchor Jake Tapper, Tapper asked Haley if she stood by the remarks she made during the interview on Fox and Friends. She commented by saying she believes the country's, quote, intent was to do the right thing. I have to confess to Nikki Haley, I didn't know you could dance like that. I haven't been paying enough attention. I don't know whether Beyonce, Taylor Swift, or Janet Jackson or somebody, but clearly you could give lessons to them. You dance better than they do. You all over the damn place. You say one thing to an audience full of constituencies one day, or constituents one day, another day you say something different. You dance around it, you don't direct it head on. Perfect example, intent. Believe the country's intent was to do the right thing. What's the right thing? That's very vague. The right thing to them was clearly Reconstruction. It was clearly a civil war. It was clearly Jim Crow laws. where do I go? Was it the right thing? Was that good and intentional when women weren't allowed to vote? Until 1920? Was that the right thing? When blacks were denied that opportunity until 1964, was that the right thing? When Jim Crow laws prohibited so many different things? You ever tried going to the bank for a loan? For a home? And how things are stipulated for you and it's different for somebody white? How about being a small business owner, an entrepreneur, aspiring to do that? You ever see the discrepancies, the difference? I know what I'm talking about. I know people in government who've given me intel on the discrepancies that exist, how the rules are different for black people and brown people compared to white folks. Evidence is everywhere. Evidence is everywhere. And as a presidential candidate, you would utter that ridiculous nonsense? You have any idea how insulting that is to hear this from a presidential candidate? You want to deny that this, at least once upon a time, was a racist country? You can sit up there and talk about how the Abraham Lincolns of the world or Jeffersons of the world wanted to minimize, if not eradicate, slavery, yet they were slave owners. Do we need to go there? You want to go back to your Civil War comments? Why you never mentioned slavery when the whole premise of it was based on slavery? You want to get into details about how it wasn't as prevalent and as conspicuous up north compared to the South because they weren't profiting off of it and their economy wasn't depending on slave labor the way the South was. Want to go there? Want to go there? This is exactly why I got pissed off when Ron DeSantis had a board of educators trying to explain how there were some things that emanated in a good way from slavery. This is why a guy like Jesse Waters for Fox News, who I respect, and I genuinely like his show sometimes, and I was a guest on his show once or twice. I'm not here to castigate or excoriate him as a person. I don't know him. I think he's a damn good host. But the reason why I was ticked off when he came to Ron DeSantis' defense is the same reason I'm pissed off right now at Nikki Haley. Why? Why bring it up? What's the harm in simply saying that was a very bad thing and it was a very bad time in our nation's history and it is not something that we want to talk about because it is not our shining moment as white folks in America. We need to leave that subject alone. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Isn't there some things that you just leave alone? That you just let it go? When you consider the fact that rapes, assaults, imprisonment, maiming, disfiguring, murder resulted from slavery? When you know that, why debate it? Why bring it up as a subject to discuss and try to maneuver your way through that terrain to find something good? Why? That's the only thing I was upset about with Jesse Waters. Why? Why do that? That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to be like some of you and call him out his name and think he's this, or that. I'm saying why debate that at the time when Ron DeSantis brought that up. You, Nikki Haley, you running for the president of the United States. Why would you do that now? You know why you're doing it? Because you were speaking to an audience that you knew wanted to hear that. And if they wanted to hear that, what kind of audience is that? What kind of constituent is that? And if they're the kind of folks that would want to hear of such a thing, what does that make them? Because I know plenty of white folks that don't think like that. I know plenty of white folks who are willing to own up to the insidious iniquities that were exacted by this country and white America against minorities in this nation. And they openly admit it and don't debate it and don't fight it. And I respect that. So I ask you, why would you feel the need? Why would you feel the need to say these things because you think that's going to get you votes. And if you think that's going to get you votes, you have essentially indicted Republicans everywhere. That's what you did. Because you're implying that that's okay to say in front of those audiences. And they good with it. And if they're good with it, and you're good with them being good with it, then how could you be trusted to be a leader of the free world and a commander-in-chief and the president to all of American citizens? I am certainly not calling Trump better than you. I am saying that your quotes are irresponsible, Nikki Haley. They're irresponsible. You try to wiggle your way around it any way you want to. They're irresponsible. I would never disrespect you, call you anything insulting, nothing like that. You are a presidential candidate in this country. You are a representative, you're a former governor, you're a former UN ambassador. Your reputation, your resume is impeccable. I'm not here for that. But as a black man in the United States of America, understanding our history, how dare you? How dare you say something like that? Message to the white men and women in America. When people talk about America's racist history, you're talking about history. And you're talking about a system that has implemented conditions which have negatively and systemically affected folks other than white folks in America. It doesn't mean we're talking about you, the individual. You know where you get yourself in trouble, white America? And by white America, I'm not talking all, I'm not talking most. I'm saying some of you who think the way that clearly some of you think. You know where you get yourself in trouble? When you personalize history as if it were you. If you sat back and said, that was then, this is now. That was them, this is me. That was those folks. Today's folks ain't like that. Who could argue with you? But because you're so apt to come to the defense of the indefensible, because you believe it stains you, it ultimately ends up doing exactly that. Because you attached yourself on a personal level to the iniquitous behaviors from an historical perspective and beyond of those who came before you that may very well have nothing to do with you. They don't think like you. They didn't act like you would act. They wouldn't behave like you behaved. Nothing to do with it. You didn't have to personalize it. But some of you have a tendency to do that. And all you do is expose your guilt.